Let's talk about talent. Do you ever watch a really great guitarist and figure that talent is the main reason for their ability? That if only you had been born with more talent, then you'd be good at guitar. Well, I'm here to tell you that talent is not the main factor, not even close. No, their secret weapon is grit. And if you want to make a huge leap in your playing, you need to develop grit. Now, what do I mean by grit? Here's how renowned psychologist Angela Duckworth, known for her studies on talent versus effort, describes grit.
Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
You may not have been born with as much natural talent as Jimi Hendrix, but you definitely can develop grit. Do this, and achieving all your goals on the guitar won't just become likely, it'll become inevitable. But I want to make a really important point here. Grit doesn't just mean work harder. In fact, just merely working harder can have negative consequences. Listen to what learning expert and YouTuber Justin Sung has to say about the potential drawbacks of just working harder.
Hard work can be futile. You can work hard and still do poorly. And what that causes is a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure. And over time, it makes people believe that they are simply incapable or not smart enough or not good enough. And that is just not true.
Grit is all about clearly seeing that higher version of yourself that you want to become, working smarter, not harder, and doing it consistently. Okay, so we need to work smarter, not harder. But how do we do that? And what about the role of motivation and willpower? Many people may feel like if they just had more of them, then they'd be able to get good at guitar. But it's likely that that isn't the main issue either. Let's check out what author and habit building expert James Clear has to say about this.
Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. They think that they need to get more motivated, that they need willpower in order to execute on a habit. If I just felt like writing, if I just felt like meditating, if I felt like working out, then I would do it. But in fact, they don't have a plan for it, and so they wake up each day thinking, I wonder if I'll feel motivated to write today. I wonder if I'll feel motivated to work out today. But instead, you can take the decision-making out of it by explicitly stating when, where, and how you want to implement the habit.
Now that we've established that you don't need tons of talent to achieve all your goals, and you probably don't lack motivation either, let's talk about how to put grit to work by developing clarity and a program of progress. Let me ask you this. What is it that you want to be able to do on the guitar that you currently cannot? So for example, someone might say, I'd like to finally know where all the notes on the fretboard are, or I'd like a better understanding of modes, or it could be, I'd like to get better at bends and vibrato. All of these examples, and any other that you could possibly think of, are all attainable, but each one requires specific actions. This leads us to how we can create a program of progress. To do this, decide which element that you want to improve in your playing would be the most impactful or the most important to you. Then either create or find a specific exercise to address your weaknesses. Set aside 5 minutes to do this every day. Do not skip a single day. You may be thinking, but 5 minutes doesn't seem like enough time to actually get better. And while there's some truth to this, right now that's not our focus. Right now the main focus is just to establish a consistent routine, one that you can actually stick to. For now, completely forget about the results. To really drive this point home, let's go back to author James Clear as he tells us a story of a man that used the same approach to establish a consistent exercise routine. You'll never believe how much weight he ended up losing by following this simple 5-minute rule.
But I got this guy, his name's Mitch, a reader, and I mentioned him in Atomic Habits. He ended up losing over 100 pounds. And for the first 6 weeks that he went to the gym, he had this rule for himself where he wasn't allowed to stay for longer than 5 minutes. So he'd get in the car, drive to the gym, get out, do half an exercise, get back in the car, drive home. And it sounds ridiculous, it sounds silly. You're like, this is not going to get the guy the results that he wants. But if you step back, what you realize is he was mastering the art of showing up. And he was becoming the type of person that went to the gym 4 days a week, even if it was only for 2 minutes. And so the point is that, and this I think is a much deeper truth about habits, a habit must be established before it can be improved, right? It has to become the standard in your life before you can worry about optimizing and scaling it up.
A really common mistake guitarists make is they actually set the bar too high. In a moment of inspiration, they might say something like, I'm going to start practicing an hour a day. But what ends up happening is by maybe the third or the fourth day, the inspiration starts to wear off. They miss a day and their streak ends. This not only creates frustration, but also a feeling of defeat and failure, even if you're not consciously thinking of it that way. Instead, set the bar so low, like 5 minutes, that you can't possibly make an excuse for not doing it. This will greatly increase your chance of staying consistent, and it creates a feeling of victory rather than defeat. Stack small victories. Speaking of stacking things, let's talk about habit stacking as a strategy for staying consistent with your new routine. Think of something that you do every single day. Ideally something that you enjoy, but it can be as simple and mundane as brushing your teeth. Next, attach your new 5-minute guitar routine to this daily habit that you already have established. And this requires zero talent. Anybody can do this. And voila, you now have a highly focused, consistent program of progress. Make it a goal to keep a streak of 1 month going with this. Just decide to commit to it and don't overthink it. After 1 month, repeat this process by adding another 5 minutes to your routine. You can either expand how many repetitions you do with the first exercise, or you can add a new exercise based on the next most important, most impactful thing for your playing. This is how you work smarter, not harder. This is how you develop grit. If you're not quite sure how to establish your routine or what even to focus on, download the free self-assessment PDF that's in the description of this video, and it goes through a bunch of different categories that you can just rate yourself on, and then from there look at what your greatest weakness is and maybe start your routine by addressing that. I want to leave you with a few last thoughts. First, be careful not to compare yourself with other guitarists, especially ones that are more advanced than you. Remember that there will always be someone that you're more advanced than, and there will always be someone that's more advanced than you. This is an unavoidable truth, and I recommend not spending time thinking of how you compare to others unless it's in the spirit of aspiring to get to that more advanced player's level. One reason this is so important is you likely have a recency bias on your current ability and skill level. But where you are now isn't the important thing. It's all about where you're heading. That's what counts. And you're heading for greater heights if you stick to your program of progress. And one last thing. You are capable of much more than you likely realize you are, and you have a unique sound that is definitely worth developing and working on. Thanks for watching, and now go get to work on that grit.